start recording. I think we did it. Oh my gosh, we got people in the house already. We have Robbie, K-Heads, Scott's great to see you. KK, Fee Bennett, great to see you too. Oh, there's our Mary D. Hi.
And we have Sita in the house.
Sita's in the house for sure. She's a little bit temperamental lately. She's kind of wanting, well, you know, she wants breakfast, lunch, and dinner all the time. She's a sweetie.
And our Israel's in the house, Ola. And Pedigree Monkey from Bavaria. Laureen Chavez, good to see you as well. It is a intense day. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, KK. I had a hard time sleeping last night, but a lot of people are going through a lot of different energetic things. Yeah, lots to cover, lots happening. And Dave from Michigan, you need a reading? Sure, just reach out to us, evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. And we could set you up. It's usually a couple weeks to get on the schedule, typically. Austin from Oklahoma. Emperor Rex, Carolina Dream, Modern Refugee, good to see you.
Oh, great to see you, Modern Refugee. Good to see you. Glad you're here.
Yeah, Supernova Blast.
Hi to Cortez Show. Hi, Cortez Show.
Yeah, and Bare Brained Adventures.
I just wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
Tom Manley. No, I mean, it's great. Mary D. And if did you already hit Mary D?
Yes.
You did. Of course you did.
Not Mary D.
As always, guys, do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com to look and know more about what we do, including testimonials from people that we've worked with over, pretty much the last 10 years. Actually, some of these go back much more than that as well, as far as the energy work goes. And we did do a Patreon exclusive the last couple of days too that were a little on the touchy side to put up on YT with the memberships. But again, we appreciate you guys in every way that you're supporting us so we could keep doing this and keep focusing so much time and attention to it. What you see is a lot of activity with the sun. Yeah, we've had a lot of M-class flares, and we've even had an X-class 1.0. So none of these at this point in time seem to have given us a CME that's heading our way. But that potential is definitely there, and this whole area is very big, very busy, and it's rotating to face us head on in the coming week. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. I know Stefan Burns put out a live stream a couple hours ago, I believe, and he was talking about the potential for a Carrington type event. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I would even expect much bigger than a Carrington event before 2040, 2045, I would say for sure.
I have seen we're going to have several of these smaller but very, very powerful events, and I did get information, I believe it was last week, I channeled from the Galactic Federation, and they were speaking about our nervous system, how we're going to have lots of these little small yet very powerful flares are going to upgrade our nervous system. I can only imagine that has got to be little by little by little, because it would really pummel me if I had to go through these changes all at once, because just very small nervous system upgrades can really wreak havoc on your body. I don't know how many of you have been feeling it lately, but we are in the very beginning stages of those upgrades.
Yeah, there's massive upgrades going on. Our nervous systems are being reworked, literally reworked, and our entire bodies are as well. Yeah, I don't think you would find a scientist that would, an average scientist, let's say, that would give you an accurate picture of what's really happening on planet Earth as far as the energies, because it's just so much more than they're taught in school. It's much, much more. And here you go. This is that CME. I should rephrase that. The X-class flare, the major X 1.0. This erupts from that active region, 4366. Yeah, definitely CMEs are possible in the days ahead. As we're doing this right here, I haven't heard of any for sure. But what hits me too, as being very curious, is it was just 158 quakes in a 24-hour period all over the globe, according to USGS, which we know they don't really show us all the ones that happen in Europe. But as far as the Ring of Fire and our section of the planet, it's pretty quiet, pretty calm. There are a couple notable ones. Again, up here you have a 4.3. Way up, let's see, what's the nearest city? I guess you say it's northwest of Edmonton, north of Calgary as well. So that's pretty notable. We have a 3.2, which is at a location where we also had a 4. I want to say 4.3. Let me see if I check the 7 days. Let's look at the 30 days, what we've had in this area. Yeah, a few right in the same area, which are right above a military installation. As you see here, Malmstrom Air Force Base. I wonder if this was one of the ones that was in the news with having a certain country, the fine dining ware country, buying property close by. The realization that the technology that's out there is way more advanced than what they've told us, and the reality of earthquake type of machinery, technology, and then we have the sun doing its thing. What's notable too is the lack right now over in Japan and over into the Philippines. Very quiet over there, as well as Kamchatka, and we do have some over in Alaska, and we have swarming on the West Coast as typical. Nothing too much out of the norm. 5.2 over in Iran. I would bet we're going to see something 6s at least, if not 7s or better, in the next 24 hours. It just feels a little too quiet, and the energies are building, wouldn't you say?
They are building, but they have to build because we're going through we're going through quite a change with ourselves, our world, how we approach things. So be very patient with yourself.
Please do like, share, subscribe. As always, guys, we appreciate you, and thank you for joining us. Over here, Mr. MBB noted how these earthquakes right here, they're kind of in a straight line, but wouldn't surprise me at all with all the fracking that's gone on in Oklahoma itself, also in Texas. I mean, it's just a mind-blowing amount of machinery pulling liquids, out of, and also gases, out of the crust and out of, Mother Earth. Of course, it has an effect. I think that they've created a lot of, they're almost like landmines of sorts, that when we get some of the bigger tectonic energy, I think it's going to be magnified because of all the fracking practice that we've had.
Yeah, it's those little that's that weakening of the earth, just, putting all those little puncture holes. Of course, it's going to cause big problems.
It's kind of like the thing we battle every day with toxicity, because everything seems to have poisonous, ingredients in it, no matter whether it's your shampoo, your deodorant, and obviously the food and the drink. So don't forget, we have that Ring of Fire eclipse occurring February 17th, 2026, 12:12 UTC. 1212 UTC. Maximum eclipse visibility from Antarctica and the Southern Ocean. The path of annularity lasts up to 2 minutes 20 seconds. That's 2 minutes and 20 seconds. With the eclipse reaching 96% coverage of the sun's disk. Visible only from remote regions of Antarctica and the Southern Ocean. As far as, that annularity aspect of it. Partial eclipse visible from southern Africa, southern South America, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, and most of Antarctica. Not that we have a lot of people in Antarctica officially. Yeah, this is the first of 3 annular solar eclipses in a row, 2026 through 2028. Coincides with the new moon in Aquarius, 28 degrees 50, beginning the Chinese Lunar New Year, which is the year of the fire horse. Ooh, the year of the fire horse.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of ominous. Who would ride on a fire horse?
Well, I think a fire horse is cool. I would take one, and you know who would ride on a fire horse would be Kali.
Ah, okay. Oh, we want to leave Kali and the Kali Yuga behind. But there are a lot of good people in the South and all around the world. You know, there's, I think, way more good people than those that have a more malevolent aspect. However, here you have, look at this. This is like a little train of good Samaritans going ahead and pulling this 18-wheeler. This is in western North Carolina. They had just quite a winter wonderland. They do have a winter wonderland over, I didn't see any of our people out here yet from that area, but I'm sure some will be joining us. Okay, there's Diana. Diana's there. 10 degrees Fahrenheit in Nashville. Yeah, that's pretty cold. How much snow did you get, Diana? Curious. It seems that it was very, very hit or miss, depending on where you were locally. But man, look at these Florida temperatures. This is insanity, right? A lot of record cold. The records are just being shattered by the dozens. Orlando, 25 degrees. The old record was 28. Melbourne, 25. The old record was 32. Daytona Beach, 23. The old record was 33. It beat it by 10 whole degrees. Leesburg, 23. And Sanford, 23. Both of those previous records were 30. Wow, that's just blowing it right away.
Yeah, that's really, really, really scary, and I want to put the intent out there tonight, because I always love how we do our intentions, that people are okay. And I did see someone needed prayers from Louisiana. A bunch of trees were beside his trailer in 2004, and they're about to fall down, and they won't help me. So the electric company, I guess there's a problem there. So I see that ban everything. So please, let's send him some prayers and some good fortune, that somebody has a heart and gets out there, or somebody who has the ability gets out there to help him, because that can really cost a lot of money, and sometimes people just don't have it, and sometimes people just need help. That's all they need, is they just need a little bit of help. So let's definitely send that intention, and that other people are okay in this storm and they don't get trapped or harmed.
Yeah, I have, some of those propane tanks in the back of my truck that I couldn't get filled anywhere, because everybody just grabbed what they could. And, so when things go back a little bit to normal, fill them up, get some for reserve. And as I have shared with you guys, I think we'll look into getting a bigger propane tank just in case, maybe also some sort of wood burning stove. But wow, you're talking about serious records. This is something Florida is not used to at all. Again, we have a lot of family down in Florida. And how about up in the Carolinas? Ooh, it was, again, you had a lot of people with 6 to 12 inches, some areas even more than a foot of snow, again, causing all sorts of havoc, car crashes, and literally at one point in time, over 100 cars were kind of stuck there on the highway. As you see, this is Gastonia area. That was a mess. Look at that too. Kannapolis. So, the greater Charlotte area, and then heading north out of Charlotte, it was just a mess. I can't believe Charlotte having a foot of snow. I did live in Charlotte for a while too. Just crazy times, crazy weather. And, it seems like we're going to have more coming, maybe not quite this intense. Let's hope not. But then when the spring comes, a lot of times we're talking about tornadoes and seriously intense storms. Now, again, this is not just in the U.S. Santiago, Chile, you could see a 1-hour storm causes flooding, turning roads into rivers where, again, people are having to abandon cars and just save themselves. It's just, and we had, don't forget as well, when we're talking Chile and Argentina, the wildfires that weren't so wild. I mean, they were, in many cases, notably, they were set by arsonists. And people saw that too. The news was even reporting it, that some of the arsonists were coming in from other countries just to create havoc. This is just insanity. Flooding in the city of Alcácer do Sal, Portugal, with 1 meter of water in some areas. You see this lady getting a boat rescue, and there you go. I mean, this has been kind of the whole theme since we started the channel in 2017 with canoeing down Main Street. This is just kind of everywhere we look at this point in time.
And this is why we lovingly joke that we're lucky we have 2 kayaks.
Yeah, they're right out there just in case. But the 2 kayaks with the 200-pound plus puppies would be kind of crazy. I don't think we'd be afloat for too long. Bigger boats would be needed. But yeah, this is just, again, everywhere you look. Everywhere you look. Now, again, this was Portugal. And here we have satellite captures images of giant underwater plumes triggered by 7-story waves off of Portugal. Beautiful country. Lots of U.S. expats. Portugal is thought to be one of the very most affordable, beautiful countries to expat to if you wanted to leave the U.S. and live somewhere in Europe. But just make note, again, of anywhere you go, if you're around the coastal areas, like there's so many Edgar Casey channels popping up now, left and right, everywhere we look. A new Edgar Casey channel's out. It's just, again, the same guidance we got from the guides, which when we were looking at different potential places to settle, they were just indicating to be off the coastline it's the most optimal thing in these times. But if you're right next to a river that has a history of flooding, you better know that too. It's again a time where we're going to face challenges anywhere you look.
Indeed, we are. It's just about getting yourself ready with whatever you can, because depending on the challenge, you have to have certain readiness, and not everyone can, figure out all the things that you're going to need unless you have your own underground bunker that's completely self-contained with stuff coming and going and refills and stock things to restock with. I mean, no one has that. Even the richest of the rich. I just don't see any way, if you're on this 3D realm, that you could possibly prepare for anything and everything. So all you can truly do is your absolute best.
Yeah, and keep putting out the good frequency and the good vibes, because that really does make a difference. This is not CGI. This is not CGI, guys. It's not AI. That's actually how big those waves are. Look at that.
That's big.
I mean, wow. And, this is an area not far from where we could have one of the biggest disasters you could think of with La Palma, like what happens if La Palma collapsed. You would see something much bigger than this rolling in. So 80 foot. Some of these are 80 feet. That is insane. Very huge. Mud volcano. This is in Azerbaijan. You don't usually see these blowing fire like that. But yeah, this is, again, just another sign of the times. There's so many things out there, one after another, that are impacting the planet in huge ways. We are in a period of real rapid change, and it's going to keep escalating. That's the thing. And the U.S. government shuts down again, second time in 4 months. Multiple federal agencies remain without funding. I thought it was interesting to see what was without funding. Here you go. So starting early Saturday, Departments of War, Education, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Labor, State Transportation, and Treasury, they've all been left without federal funding. Wait a minute, the Department of War is left without federal funding? So, because it seems like that War Department is always being used. And I think it's interesting, too, that they changed it from the Department of Defense, because the reality is it hasn't been defensive. It's been offensive. Because, again, I guess it's how you view things, you know. Well, there might be an attack from over here in this section of the world you never heard of before, so we better go and, preemptively change the political structure there or what have you, and it's going to take a military strike. Yeah, that's what the Roman Empire did, really. Now, you could look at it like it's all just each of these empires doing their thing by themselves. But when you look at the bigger picture, there's definitely a cohesiveness to this. Again, when you look at all these alphabet soups agencies, they do interact with each other. It's quite obvious, whether we're talking CIA, MI6, Mossad, even going back to OSS, KGB, and others, and even Hitler's SS. I think there's a lot more communication that's happening behind the scenes that people don't realize. And then we also have companies that have made a ton of money in, say, World War II. A lot of these companies made a lot of money, and they actually built stuff on both sides of the conflict. And I think about, Ford Motor Company, for instance. Ford Motor Company. In World War II, the big three automakers were turned into military production locations. But there were also Ford production facilities in other places that were actually building as well. But for the other side, this is the thing. And when you realize that, then you look at the families, the politicians, you look at, the monetary ties, and you'll see these people are invested on both sides of the conflict because, again, war is perhaps one of the most profitable things on the planet. The medical industry is probably next, or, first and second in the opposite order.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need to look at what we call medicine, kind of take a double take on that too, because the only reason the medical industry is so big is because it keeps people so sick. And Mike and I were working on adapting looking into new technologies now that are actually healing people. And that's pretty rare for us to go stand behind things, but we have been looking for something we could stand with, and we found something, and it's all about actually healing you. So that really feels good. I think that's how we need to look at medical is, if you keep getting your prescriptions filled, it's not working. Something's not working. And we need to look at that again.
Yeah, absolutely. This is part of the double-edged nature of the sword of the times that we're in. If we can make it through this bumpiest patch, and I do think that we can make it through, say the next 10 years, look at the next 10 years. There's a lot of forecasts that have been made showing that, half or more or most of the world's population might not make it. We've never gotten anything that drastic or that severe. I do think we're in a trying testing times that, I think there's more people exiting than coming into incarnation on the earth at this time. And that'll probably keep going for a while. When you realize, too, these times are bumpy in how this world works with incarnating souls, because, again, this is a temporary human experience. We are, by our very nature, just consciousness itself. We take an avatar and we have this experience. Well, there's a lot of souls, too, that want to wait for this period to settle down before they come and incarnate for their next go.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's something that gets missed. But what we're seeing here is several things happening. The death of the dollar, it's definitely dying. And I think, again, they're trying to extend its longevity, with some forces trying to extend its longevity, other forces with the goal of speeding up the death of the dollar. So, you could have a new, quote-unquote, multipolar world in which the BRICS nations, China and Russia, have a greater role, as the U.S. has been kind of the sole policing force of the corporate nature of this world, because it is corporate. Even the U.S. is still INC at the end of the day. This is talking about, well, Hillary may finally find herself behind bars. Well, we'll see. But President Trump ordered the immediate release of all FBI files related to Crossfire Hurricane, the infamous Russian collusion investigation. This means John Durham's report confirms in August 2016 the then CIA Director John Brennan briefed Obama and Biden on Clinton's plan to falsely link, that whole thing. Yeah, again, as we were talking about in previous lives and videos, I think people are finally realizing, wait a minute, these people are pretty corrupt. But wait a minute, those people, they were pretty corrupt too. And the ones before them, they're really corrupt. And then we start looking at neighboring countries and even countries far away, and we find the same thing. So, here it's just a realization that this world has been run by crime syndicates. Not much different, really, than the mafia.
No, definitely not. It's the mob.
This is organized crime. And it's organized and legalized because they control the whole legal process. And again, it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, although there seems to maybe be a little bit more towards one side than the other in certain cases. It's a system that has been this way for a very long time. It's just that in ages past, like our parents were, for the most part, naive. Not everybody, but most. And, they were brought up thinking a certain thing. And it's the same thing in other countries too, because each country will try to cultivate quote unquote patriotism because it serves the purpose of the leadership at the top. When you look to the Vietnamese people, for instance, the Vietnam War was an atrocity. That happened, from when I was born till I was like around 8 years old. Now, look at Vietnam. In many ways, the life of the average person in Vietnam right now is better than in many, many places, even in the Western world, even in, say, first world nations, quote unquote, European nations, and in some ways, the actual average quality of life and all. So, is it really a capitalist fight, a democratic fight, or a fight of a republic against, a communist government? The reality is, there is no communal sharing in communism. It's the same thing we have, again, in the United States and in other countries from the standpoint that you have this, L-lights, you have this one sector of, again, we were going to talk about in another video, the caste systems that have been in our world. When you think of the caste system from India per se, which actually was brought in place again with quote unquote the Aryan invasion that supposedly happened, which again I feel is more of a case of different individuals with higher technology, and I might be losing some people on this, but not all. Quite a few will understand where we're going with this. But when you look at those people, those entities that think that they're totally above the law, and there are those out there, we're seeing it, and we're even wondering when so much of the political leadership of this planet, here in the United States, for instance, but in other places too, with everything that's being exposed, most of them should truly be in jail and on trial for all sorts of things. But will any of that ever really happen? I think there's a lot of doubt.
That's where I get really sad, because I keep seeing these things come up. I mean, these horrific crimes, and nothing happens. They have names out there, and they make funny memes about somebody being behind bars, but I don't see anything happening. And when that goes on long enough, and I've watched it go on for many, many years. I mean, a lot of horrible things come and go, and names mentioned, and memes, and all these funny things, but nothing actually happens. So you got to wonder, really, who's running the show? Who? There's got to be something more there.
Yeah, and when one of those L-lights that are really nothing but parasites ends up behind bars, they're in a luxury setting. I mean, they still have their remote control. They have their private room. It may be a little bit smaller than what they're used to, but they're still relatively pampered. Not like somebody, that committed some sort of offense. Maybe was even just simply arrested for possession of marijuana or something along those lines. They're not going to have the same situation as the parasitic Lites in, in the penal system. So here you have Trump says federal authorities won't respond to protests in Democratic-led cities unless asked. Yeah, President Donald Trump on Saturday announced federal authorities will not intervene in protests in Democrat-led jurisdictions, but will continue to forcefully protect federal property. I've instructed Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem that under no circumstances are we going to participate in various poorly run Democratic cities with regard to their protests and or riots unless and until they ask us for help. We will, however, guard, and very powerfully so, any and all federal buildings are being attacked by these highly paid lunatics, agitators, and insurrectionists. So this is a huge de-escalation that's going on. Please do share what you guys think of this de-escalation, because it feels like a de-escalation. Again, we understand that so many things are completely scripted, and again, there's actors bought and paid for to do certain things, and we see them pop up in the same cities sometimes. So you have Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson puts ICE on notice with executive orders seeking prosecution of agents. So they're looking for illegal activity by the ICE agents to go ahead and, pursue punishing them. I remember that whole movement to abolish different police stations and things like this. Again, in my mind, we've been kind of set up for a takeover, a Red Dawn scenario that's been planned for a very long time. And it feels like the Trump administration was trying to literally protect us from that. But then when you look at other things, like here, the U.S. occupation of Gaza, where, again, what are they doing there? They're going to make some sort of tropical paradise that the people that were living there before will not be able to afford to live. So it's going to be, something again for only people that, would fit that lightish category. Yeah, it's just so sad. And it just is so horrible and the way of the old world. And literally, again, this is going to be that Board of Peace, headed by, 47 himself as the board chair. In some ways, again, it is setting us up for a permanent presence there in Gaza and building some, luxury paradise place for the rich and famous to go vacation. Meanwhile, you had 2 million people that were living in this area, 2 million people that were living there. Well, now they could develop whatever they want because those people aren't really there anymore. This is what the system has done for thousands of years to like pretty much every corner of the globe at a different time.
If a tree is rooted, it's very well nourished. And when you uproot a tree, just like a human being, you take away all that nourishes them. You take away all of their ways that they know how to do things, and they remain in kind of like a state of shock. They don't know what's going to happen from day to day, so it puts their mind in a state of fear. And if it's in a state of fear, it's very, very controllable. The human mind is geared to look around to see, okay, where is it safe? Where is it safe? And to follow instructions. So that's kind of where they want everyone's mind as much as possible. And I'm waiting for the day when there's like a level playing field. Would be very nice.
John Levy was doing, he looked at different areas, but at the end he finished with North Korea. And looking at North Korea, he's noticing a lot of anomalies, things that are just strange. They don't seem to make sense. What we see in many places around the world, and again, recognize too, with North Korea being where they are, not being part of the same banking system as, the Western world per se. And really, they're kind of closed off. It provides an opportunity for massive redos. Yeah. Is there a massive redo that's been well underway here? Because what he is noticing is North Korea is like this, it's got 26 million people. Let me pull this up. I think it's about the size of Texas as far as population.
It's hard to say exactly what's going on because, apparently we're not invited over to their camp, their campground to see what's going on. But it looks very, very suspicious. I mean, things look so strange.
Okay, well, it's actually significantly smaller in land area. Yeah, wow. So Texas is roughly 5.8 times larger than North Korea. However, its population is 26 million. And Texas is up to 30 million now. So, yeah, they're close to the same in total people, supposedly. But yeah, people are really spread out in Texas. We've crossed Texas many times in kind of every direction, every way. It's huge, and most of it's empty. Most of it is empty, but so is this. And this is the weird thing too, because as he was zooming in on all these, city streets, some of which the cities were there, but now it's like all bulldozed, but you still see like, the grid work of the cities there. Even though there's nothing but rubble there, you could still make out the lines that there were streets, there were probably houses and buildings. They're all gone now. And this is in many different locations all around this area. And what we see too, when he starts zooming in some areas, is like there's no people. I mean, you see a few people walking, there's no cars. It's just really bizarre. But it feels like he was showing this park. It looks pretty. It looks well made. There's a lot of things there that look very, very advanced and nice. Not like an impoverished, starving nation. Not like what we're pictured in the West. But then there's also things that are totally wiped out and just erased. Of course, we did have the Korean War too, but that hasn't been going on for a long time. I mean, it's not officially ended, so that's one thing to note. But it's just weird. There's nobody in the streets, There's no traffic jams. There's not even abundance of people, and it feels eerie. Now, he was looking at some other areas around the globe too, and he does this all the time. And I've seen it too, where you look at some of the places that have been, like right here, these were streets. They were all crosshatched and everything, and now there's nothing there. And this type of thing pops up time and time again all over the world. And you see it in our own New Mexico, Colorado. You look from above, Texas. You could see there was old grid work in some areas that, according to the historical records we have, it was never built out that big, but it looks like it was.
Yeah, it looks really, really, really strange with just a few people walking around and absolutely no cars. Seems quite barren. Not sure what to think about this one.
Yeah, and again, you could do this on other things besides Google Earth. But Google Earth obviously is the largest of these type of things, and you could go and look in person. I mean, Cindy and I have seen it firsthand. We've seen round sort of indentations that could only possibly be made by something harder than stone, like metal, in like a pattern that would suggest something very large, very heavy, and very metallic being on the surface in the middle of the desert where nothing's ever been there, according to the history books. But there was definitely something very large and very metallic. And again, this is just one of the areas we used to go roam for ourselves, trying to get as far out in the middle of nowhere as you can.
And it's surprising because out there in the middle of nowhere, you certainly find a lot of some things, where it should be absolutely dead. There's no water. There's very little vegetation, not too many people around. And you go up in the middle of these desert mountains, and you see these markings, like round markings, like there was a pillar there on this what appears to be white stone. And we have a video of that when we went up there. So it's just really curious about the world that we live in. I wish we had more answers.
Yeah, and I don't want to crash this with bringing up Google Earth, but yeah, I'll save that for a different time. But man, the anomalous objects that you can see out there, and if it's close to where you are, then go check for yourself. And then and we've done that a lot of times. Other people have too. John Levy's done it many times where he sees something curious and he goes and looks for it. There are so many different people that we follow too that do a lot of venturing deep into the desert, like Desert Drifter used to do. You see something anomalous and you make a note, and then you get there and you go explore it for yourself. And more often than not, it's verified that there's something really unusual there.
And even the little bitty towns that we've been in New Mexico, you're just driving up a road, just a random road, and you look up and there's these dwellings up there, and you just got to wonder, okay, why did they make it so high up there? Obviously, it's not easy to get to from the bottom or from the top. I mean, it's very, very treacherous. And why so far up there? And I really don't think it's because there was water there, because either way, then you would have to climb from the top to the bottom unless you could fly. I don't know.
I see lots of comments about the seconds of gravity loss. I remember looking it up. You remember looking it up?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. Again, there's no way that could happen. Reasonably. But, again, our world is a lot more manipulated than people think. I think that almost everybody thinks. I think a lot of technologies are controlling everything that we are attributing to Mother Nature. Not that Mother Nature doesn't have a hand in things, but there's way more technology impact than people think. This is a weird thing. The claim that the Earth will lose 7 seconds of gravity for 7 seconds is false. Viral social media posts and videos suggest a gravity blackout will occur August 12th, 2026, due to intersecting gravitational waves from black holes, resulting in mass destruction and 40 to 60 million deaths. Now, I think what happens, though, is that you have this type of thing, with this put out there, gravity blackout. It might be that there is something we should make note of in that time period, but it won't necessarily be that. But at the same time, you never know. They feed things sometimes out there for our consciousnesses to program it as a possible outcome.
They do. They feed it to us all the time, day and night. As much as we look at the computer and work off of our tablets, and we need to look, there's always these subliminal messages, if not direct, coming right at us.
Experts explain that gravity is a result of mass, and there's no known mechanism to turn it off. But you could utilize it. There are technologies, absolutely. There is anti-gravity. We could see that when you start using sound waves, you could literally move things with it. So, could there be something that's tested around this time? That wouldn't surprise me.
No, I think there's a lot of cool technologies coming out.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to look at all that's coming out and being exposed. This is just, to me, there's only one word for this. Canadian woman euthanized against her will. After her husband reported caregiver burnout, Canadian woman in her 80s was euthanized against her will through Canada's Medical Assistance in Dying program, MAID, after her elderly husband told doctors she had changed her mind despite telling an assessor she wanted to live, according to a report released by the Office of the Chief Coroner, and they still put her down. I mean, it takes words away from me. There's nothing I could do to explain this hardly without starting to swear. So
I know there's not too many directions you can go with this.
Yes, and KK is saying the polar psychic says there's going to be a huge explosion that the whole world will speak of. And KK, that might have been in the summer. I forget when he picked it up. But yeah, he did say there would be something that would not be mechanical. It wouldn't be a rocket. It wouldn't be a missile. No nuke or anything like that. That we're gonna see this year, but that the world will talk about, like an asteroid literally incoming and exploding up in the atmosphere, that causes everybody to be like stunned and shocked. So, I mean, could that be the event there? That maybe they're trying to telegraph with that 7 seconds of gravity loss thing. Maybe there's something like that happening.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's usually some truth in these crazy things, but, not always exactly what they give. How about this? This is curious. 4 moons appear over St. Petersburg in Russia. The spectacle is known as a para-Selene. Well, Selene is the moon goddess, and para is usually 4 or about. So, yeah, we actually do have 4 moons here. Apparently, it again, the obvious answer is, wait a minute, somebody took this from behind a window. But the reality is, this is the opposite side. And this doesn't look like it's necessarily behind a window. It might be. There's some sort of writing up here. But I don't know if that was implanted into the photo too. I mean, watermarking or what. It's curious because, actually, there's a lot of this that's been seen. A lot. It's not just once. It's like people all over Russia were taking photos of this. And what type of optical illusion is this? They're not all at the exact same degree. And, of course, different times of day or night and different, tones, hues, I guess I would say.
Well, let's see, it was probably about 3 or 4 months ago I had picked up about the dimensions starting to collapse in on each other, and we weren't going to be able to keep all of this information separate and just out of this visible spectrum that is so tiny. I believe that we are starting to see new parts of the world. I think we're starting to see beyond that visible spectrum. And I think it's going to come about quite naturally, honestly. So this is really interesting. I'm not allowed to see the whole picture of this because when I see it, there is a slight numbing. It's hard for me to explain. But what does come to my mind, what I am, I guess, allowed to have information on is the collapsing of the dimensions.
Yeah, that's really a fascinating subject, the collapsing of the dimensions. Yeah, when you see a post like this, edited lens flare mirror effect for like the 2-3 dozen people that took photos everywhere. Yeah, again, that's something a little bit different. No, I think what that means is this really is freaky, and I don't want this to be real because, it's kind of shaking my view of what reality is.
Well, that'll happen when you go through an awakening. Sometimes you're not quite ready to see these things in the 3D. You think maybe you are, but then when you do, you just sort of lose it. And I've gotten to the point now where it's all very, very neutral to me. That's not to say that I can't get scared sometimes, because I could. And I did have a episode with an entity one time that was quite large and looked at me like it wanted to eat me. And I did get quite upset about that. But with these things, to me, I see it as more of a natural wonder. And I'm really glad it's more out in the open now.
Mm-hmm. When I was watching the moon in Asheville that one time, it went from being like this. There was only one, to being more like this, but not that bright. It just went where you could see the craters and all the little features, and then it went just totally blank. And it was like just looking at, remember the old, what are those things in school when you used to watch videos and stuff in school? Like the projector board, the board that you would pull, the whiteboard, that they pulled down. It was just like that. I saw weird things in Charlotte way back. That was in I don't know, around 2000 or so. It might have been just before 9/11, but it was like crazy drone slash UAP type of, maybe even, plasmoids, but it was at the building tops in downtown Charlotte. I was walking with a group of people there, and it was just very weird. All these, it looked like entities. Some of them seemed energy-wise. Some of them seemed more mechanical that were up there, and people were noticing it. A lot of times you get things like this where people notice this, and a lot of people notice this. I mean, how is this not a bigger deal? But it's just ice in the atmosphere, right?
Just a little ice. Don't worry, our scientists have an answer, I'm sure.
Again, I don't think our reality is what we're told. I don't think it's even close to what we're told. I think we are in more of a Truman Show than we realize. I do think that's the case. How about this? Let me play you. The reactions are what kind of says a lot.
Oh my gosh, look at that. They're shimmering. It's like the sky's an oil slick. I'm going to zoom in. Hold on. Wow, you can see all the little ripples. Pink, green, blue. It's changing while I look at it. That is wild. I've never seen clouds do that in person.
That sounds like HARP in action, some sort of frequency being sent through the chemtrails. Chemtrails are laid, and then they go ahead and send a frequency through it.
I forgot to upload it, but Carmen Doc sent me some photos of her sky that was just like that without the colors, but it was like that. You could just tell that they were radiating a pattern over her. And then at her work, she sent a video of like the snow. It was supposed to be snow, but it didn't look like snow. Like everything else was melted, but in these couple of spots where it really should have been melted, but it wasn't, it looked like foam. It just did not look normal. So I think there's, really weird stuff going on.
Yeah. Ban everything. It would be interesting to note what type of aliens you saw. I mean, my kids, both my son and my daughter, who are 10 years apart, both had times when they were being terrorized by the Greys. This is going way back, and they would, both of them, not want to sleep alone. So yeah, it happens to a lot more people than you would think, and people don't really want to talk about those type of things because people might think you're crazy. But I think the reality is, I bet you'd have more than half of people would acknowledge that the Greys are some sort of real entity, because you've had millions of people have encounters with Greys.
I don't think Greys, I think there's good Greys. I can't say they are bad across the board at all, because I did see some that were quite kind, and they looked different and they felt different. Their energy was different. But I've also been around Greys that have felt really, really horrible. I mean, really horrible. It's like they can project some sort of vibration to make you feel fear or just make you feel anger. I think one of their favorites is to project to make you feel anger, to get you to miss certain things, or jealousy is a big one. They can project that to get you to do certain things that you otherwise wouldn't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Martine 665 was just talking about being too toxic to get through the shift. It's just, we have to make the choice that we're going to keep working on making ourselves healthier in every way we can each day. And that's just simply a choice. It really, really is. Not that it's easy, again, developing the willpower to get off of things like, alcohol and all sorts of drugs and, other habits too, that can just pull you into a downward energetic spiral. It's again, a choice that it takes a lot of will and strength and fortitude. And it's great when you have help and have people that are supportive around you. That's so important, as opposed to the opposite, where people, that are also maybe even more, under the spell of dark energy habits that will pull you down. So, this is part of a time of separations in many ways. I think a lot of people are going to just not going to do anything with the system, try to have as little as possible to do with the system and get out of the system as much as possible, because as we can see, it's been run by demons, literally.
And just basically figuring out who your people are, who is your tribe, who are those that are going to respect your boundaries and help you, and just be there for you under any circumstance. I think where people are in a place where they're figuring all that too.
Yeah, what do you guys think about this? What do you think about this? What if I told you this was up in New York State? Would you believe it? It looks like a Scottish castle. It's because it is. It's a recreation of a Scottish castle. But this is, again, the official history tells us. By the way, this place is beautiful, isn't it? Look, I love the architecture. It's just so stunning. The ruins of Bannerman's Castle. Crumbling remains of a former military surplus warehouse. That seems really odd. Polepole Island in the Hudson River, approximately 50 miles north of New York City. Over through that area, there are some really cool feeling places, and then there are some kind of creepy vibe places over when you get up into this area. They say this was built between 1901 and 1908 by Scottish immigrant and businessman Francis Bannerman VI. The structure was designed to resemble a Scottish castle, though it served as a storage facility for its vast collection of weapons and military equipment, acquired after the Spanish-American War and from Navy auctions. The island, originally known for Native American and Dutch settler folklore about spirits, no wonder, was purchased by Bannerman in 1900 to safely store munitions away from densely populated areas. Despite its castle-like appearance, the building was never a true residence, although a small home was constructed for the Bannerman family and caretakers. The castle's history has been marked by repeated disasters. A 1920 explosion destroyed part of the complex after 200 tons of shells and powder detonated. 1950s sinking of the ferry Polepole severed access, leading to abandonment. A mysterious fire in 1969, possibly arson, burned for 3 days, destroyed internal structures. In December 2009, a major collapse, followed by further damage in January 2010, reduced the front and east walls, leaving only the stone shell standing, now reinforced with steel supports. So today it's owned by the New York State Office of Parks, Rec, and Historical Preservation. Access is restricted. It's cool, but there is definitely a creepy vibe there. Absolutely.
I got it's a beautiful building. I really think the architecture and everything is beautiful, but I got a feeling that there was a lot of karma on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there, and then you feel into it. So this is where the location is. And, perhaps some of you guys have been through this area. As you can see, straight up, and it's kind of cool too, like when you go across the Tappan Zee and everything, you look back down in New York City off in the distance. When you start going up through this area, I don't know if it's related to the wars with the natives that were there, but I'll tell you too, I camped over in here. This was one of my favorite camping areas as a kid. We used to go up to Kent. We used to go up to Cornwall, Sharon, this beautiful country up in northern Connecticut here, northwestern. But there is a place called Dudleytown. And, this is like my famous adventure when we were just about to graduate from high school. We went up here because this place is known to be haunted. There it is. It's known to be haunted, and it was cursed. There was a curse laid basically on a royal family of Sir John Dudley, who was like a cousin to the current, at that time, King and Queen of England. And he in fact, it was sort of like a banishment. He came over to the U.S. to settle. And this is a famous site that lots of investigators have gone to. And I've spent a night there too, camping out right where it's supposed to be haunted. And yeah, it was really creepy, and you could feel eyes watching you. And the guys I was with, they were freaking out. But that's, again, teenagers. We were 18 doing that, 17, 18.
Kids do that.
And it was a lot of fun. I mean, absolutely a lot of fun. There's so much to explore. So I was doing all this type of exploration as a kid too. When you look to everything that is like right in front of our faces, the reality of Tartaria, the hidden technology, again, of the past, what was the real case with Tartaria? I think what I'm coming to the conclusion is that it was, I think it was a breakaway civilization of sorts. I think it was, something that happened with people that were breaking away from what had developed on Earth, this totalitarian elitish system. And, did they bring in 1,000 years, a golden 1,000-year age? And then, Satan struck back, so to speak, and took away all our free energy and, all the ideas and concepts that were going on in some of these areas. I'm just going to start to read a book from, what was the date I got? I want to say it's about 450 years old, talking about explorations in Tartaria. And it's just fascinating because, oh man, it gets into all the stuff that's been revealed only recently in our recent times. Again, looking at the spires and the energies, and, it just seems like there was, how could they pay so much attention to detail? How could they put so much money, because money is time is money, right? In effort into these buildings. It was because they didn't have the same system in place that we do now. And, the people that were doing these type of, amazing architectural endeavors, they were being funded and supported by everybody. Did they have some sort of true communism going on there? Not like Maoism, not like capital cronyism, and not the type of communism that was literally brought over to China by the Red Shields, because they are the ones that funded that whole thing, and other family groups to that. Yeah, there's a lot that doesn't add up here.
No, there's so much that doesn't add up, and you look in this time frame, and it's really a mess. I do see a really, really ugly end to things when we're talking about Tartaria, and I see a whole lot of lies, and I see just so much truth being withheld, and I don't think that's going to last forever. I think we do have, with this solar, the issues that we have going on right now with the sun, I mean, they look really scary, but I think they're going to be more and more and more of a blessing, because they're going to get so many people to see past the veil. It's just not going to be tolerated anymore, the lies.
No, and, again, great things are happening right now. There's more and more channels uncovering this. And, as we keep digging into a little bit more, we keep finding out and sharing like new little nuggets that maybe you haven't seen before. Maybe you've seen, like with the case with what I look at, it's like, okay, I know about 85% of this, 90% of it. But when you keep adding new information in, it's helping to change the paradigm and sharing with each other, so we work together to try to expose the real reality, because we know, like right there, in the word history, it's his story. It's right in front of us. It's just a story. It's right in front of us. And our verbiage, our words are very powerful. And again, the English language itself has been constructed from previous languages in order to control us. We know about cursive, putting a curse, and cursive writing, spelling, it just goes on and on and on. All the things that are right in front of our face, and the leftover Tartarian technology. I think it was a breakaway civilization that probably, thrived for a while. And when we look at star forts, after all, it's Star Fort Sunday, right? Star forts, fortifications. No, I think there's something different in play here. This is sacred geometry.
Well, it's tied to the body. It harmonizes the energy field to such a high degree that I think in some cases, let's see, I'm trying to remember the name of that movie where they actually showed if you are in a certain state, you could disappear from a certain dimension. I can't remember the name of that movie, but the Celestine Prophecy, if you've seen that movie. It has a little bit of cheesy graphics, but I feel that these were able to take the human body and harmonize it where you were able to move about in different dimensions, yet still use everything that you see here. It was an amazing time. This technology that comes from the earth is what I see that we couldn't possibly fully understand just yet, but I think we're on our way back.
Yeah. And like Regina says, his story is not our story. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been rewritten. And this is the point when we start looking at these areas, when we look at Google Earth and other stuff too, that shows that there were whole cities and towns that are not in the historical record that were there, but they're like scrubbed from the earth. They're just scrubbed away. Was it mud flood? Was it multiple mud floods? Are we still in the same series of mud flood events that goes all the way back to the times of Noah?
I think we're in a very interesting time, and I think there's definitely something off when it comes to the timing that they give us. I don't think that that's anywhere near close. I think it's just a lot of fibbing is what they've been doing.
Well, again, when you have something that's true, it doesn't have to ever change. It doesn't have to be rewritten. These scientific laws and stuff that they give us that end up, being shown to be inaccurate, and we have to rewrite something. Well, you take it as somebody that's not an expert and professional in any one particular scientific area. You just simply, you kind of go on, does this feel right? Does it not feel right? Well, they're the experts. They must know the truth. Well, no. Again, this is what we're realizing, because you see these structures, they're all over the entire world. They're in every different landmass. They have a purpose, and again, it is about frequency. And wow, that's loud. They have a frequency to them. Oh, by the way, this is our own Robbie Berry. So Robbie did this on star forts and 432 hertz music. I'm not sure if it was YouTube free music or not, but again, here's some high vibe music with some beautiful star forts from around the world, courtesy of our own Robbie Berry, who again is probably right there. Yeah. Oh, and thank you, Bob Hawk, so much for your support. We appreciate you too.
Being here. Thank you. That really helps keep us going, and it helps us do these videos and get the information out. And not only that, pull people together and make positive intention and make positive change. We do like to say prayers if anyone needs prayers, like we did at the beginning. That's really important. And we do updates too. So thank you, Bob Huck.
Yeah, Robbie says, Cindy just said, looking at the images of star forts can help awaken your DNA. So he uploaded a video with 432 hertz. And, here you go. We are subscribed if you guys want to subscribe to Robbie too, because I think, I'm sure he's going to come up with some other things in the future. And this way we could keep in touch with each other. Where did Tartaria go? Well, here you go. This is from the CIA website, National Cultural Development Under Communism. Let us take the matter of history, which, along with religion, language, and literature, constitute the core of people's cultural heritage, Here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. For example, on 9th of August 1944, Central Committee of the Communist Party, sitting in Moscow, issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of a nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with Tartar history. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten, let us be frank, was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to Great Russian aggressions and to hide the facts of the real course of Tartar-Russian relations. And this was no isolated case. In every Muslim area within the USSR, historians, on the orders of the Communist Party, have rewritten history to distort the facts so that the Russians appear always in a good light. Needless to say, histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed, so that the present and future generations of Muslims are forever denied the chance of learning the true facts of their nation's past. The thing to realize is it's not just, the communists in Russia doing this, it's every culture, every society. This is just what it happens all around, everywhere you look. Look at this from the World Expo. It doesn't make any sense that these things would be created for just a week or two or a month or whatever and then just destroyed. There's no sense in that, and it's interesting. I'm going to read this. It's about 300 pages, 280 pages. Again, a book that's attributed to being about 500 years old. And, all about basically a visit to real Tartary. And, it includes, I'll just give you, for instance, remember how we were talking about the Council of 300, that Dr. John Coleman book? Well, supposedly 500 years ago, there was a Council of 300 in Tartary, according to this book.
I got some kind of really interesting information when I was taking a look at this area, and I really didn't like it. It was quite disturbing when it comes to the different types of beings that were there. I just didn't like it. I felt really bad because I feel something was done to them.
Well, it's the old "can you handle the truth?" and most people can't. They really can't. I think if you want to introduce aliens, ultra-terrestrials to the public, I think that will go far easier in most cases. Of course, depends on how ugly they look. It'll go far more easy than if you were to tell people the real history of planet Earth in just even the last 500 years. That would be something much more unsettling.
I think, yeah, very, very much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people could handle it. I mean, you would go back and think about the French Revolution with the guillotines. Can you imagine that times 1,000, all across the globe? I mean, that's what you would have. And then if you've missed this, Hillary Clinton leaked email discussions about the resurrection chamber of a buried Nephilim, and requests documents relating to Gilgamesh's resurrection chamber. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah, I mean, I saw this years ago. This, again, goes back to all those things that were leaked by that one particular guy that took off to Russia. Yeah, all the wild and crazy stuff, it's only wild and crazy because we've been kept in the dark and they haven't shared the reality of this world with us. They've actually given us a totally, totally fake reality. I think, again, when you go into the myths and legends with an open mind, you'll find way more truth than you will in the history books, typically.
Really important also to rebuild that pineal gland and free it from whatever might be encasing it, and that's fairly easy to do if you can detox and keep a close eye on your diet. These things come along naturally.
One of the perplexing things, though, is that when we see these giants, so often they're depicted like they're not very swift. I mean, like they're gigantic buffoons, not like technologically advanced, right? Not like, they are the beings that would be operating ships that could literally, take you into the deepest reaches of space. Again, space is more like an ocean than it is a vacuum. But you could see like this reference. Why would anybody ever make a reference to this? I don't know. Which one are we? Are we the tiny little guy? Are we this guy? And they're talking about little people. And then you got these different, classifications of giants, including some that are enormous. That's just a fascinating discussion in and of itself. Again, it goes back to the fact that we are on a portion of the Earth. The Earth is much bigger than what they tell us or show us, when that was just a portion of a bigger planet that was destroyed in this intergalactic, interdimensional war that's spoken of literally in our modern day mythologies of Star Wars. They're letting us know a little bit about how we got to here.
Yeah, isn't that nice of them? They're letting us know just a little bit. But I think what gets left out a lot is the difference in oxygen between a time when there were giants and, even giant bugs, the difference in oxygen between then and now. And, oxygen is a really interesting concept, because if you're having trouble healing, if you're having issues, like if you have a cut, it's not healing well, or you're trying to just heal from a cold, the flu, anything, if somebody that has an oxygen concentrator, you know how much you can speed that healing just by sitting there and breathing that oxygen for a few minutes a day. I mean, it is life-changing. It's life-changing. And what we do is we do exercise. Well, I do. Mike does sometimes when he feels he needs it, but exercise with oxygen therapy. And I have this oxygen bag, and I fill it full of oxygen in my elliptical, and I get on there and I breathe the oxygen while I'm pushing myself on the elliptical, and it just opens up all those capillaries and gets so much oxygen in my body, and it just causes such rapid healing. And I discovered that when I got so sick a while ago, along with ozone.
Is this really, a being that we might call a Nephilim? The Anunnaki beings that came, again, intergalactic pirates, really, when you look at it, opportunists just looking to score some gold and treasures, and maybe, take some of the Earth females with them. Do you think this is real? Which one of you, who out there believes that this is real? This was so famous, this little video. It has a curious vibe to it.
It does have a very interesting vibe. I mean, to me, it doesn't have just a natural, this is just a fake guy laying here vibe. No, to me, I felt some authenticity with it, but at the same time, in the world that we live in, it feels like it could be, faked very easily. But something tells me there's something different around this energy.
Yeah. Can you read into that being of anything?
I feel that he has so much power that he would absolutely be left alone like this, and anyone who would want to take him over wouldn't dare, because they know things about him. They know the power that he holds. So I don't feel that he's nice. I think he rules with an iron fist, and he has beings watch after him. So that's what I'm picking up about that.
Has he been dead a long time, or you feel like it's more of a stasis?
No, this is more of a stasis. This is preserving the skin and things of that nature for, because his DNA holds certain energies that he doesn't want to just die and get a new body. He doesn't want to do that. His DNA is very special.
So would they clone off of this body for him to inhabit in the future?
They could, sure. They definitely, it wants to be kept and preserved fairly well for the DNA.
Is that for real? Let's see.
Did they lose us?
No. Talking about a big flare. Let's see. Oh yeah, there you go, guys.
Bingo.
Yeah, an X 8.1. Is that the second biggest that we've seen, or I think it might be the second biggest we've seen. That's pretty big. Well, they say that if the imagery suggested that if a CME is associated, it will likely be fairly mild. But, again, even when these things don't directly impact us, they still affect our consciousness. I would seriously be looking for a big quake in the next 48 hours or so with everything that's going on. Again, 159 is pretty low, and there's been no energy released really over in this area at all. So yeah, this is curious. An X 8.11. I felt something was brewing and could be something bigger yet. So, that's obviously not as big as the Carrington event that Stefan was talking about.
Ours too, Martin, the ears ringing, and I know other people who just are not sleeping very well, going through things, and I really believe that's the nervous system. This is a nervous system reset that the Galactics channeled through me about, I think it was last week, that came through, and that it's not just going to be a one-time thing. No, this is something that they have to continually kind of hit our bodies, let us adjust, hit the bodies, let us adjust, hit the bodies. It cannot be done all at once. It would just completely knock us off our keisters. But there are things you can do to help yourself adjust as this energy comes in. And water is one of the simplest things to help these energies come and settle.
So the Carrington event was somewhere around an X45. That's huge.
Yeah.
We're talking an X8 just hit. But at the same time, the geomagnetic strength of our shields per se is much less now than it was back then. So that's something to take into effect. And when we look at the Schumann right now, you can see the whiteout starting over here. SOS 70. People are feeling it. A lot of people are not sleeping well. A lot of people are sleeping a ton and having very, very little energy. This is because, again, this affects us so deeply in so many ways. Mind, body, spirit. Many people are having very, very vivid dreams like they've never had before.
Yeah, being a full moon and with a solar flare. Oh my gosh, all of I feel the reason people get so wound up on a full moon is because the moon is reflecting the energy of the sun, and it makes us very, very electric when that moon is big and full, and it's throwing all of its power into our bodies, and we being electric beings, we're going to react to that. And I've noticed many people that we work with, when if they're very, very sensitive and that full moon comes around, and if they're going through something painful, there's going to be more pain, emotions, there's going to be more emotion, going to be more processing. And now, yes, Robbie, you throw in a flare like this, and that's going to be like zap. Yeah, it's going to give us a little jolt. So what I would recommend is what I always recommend with people when we do energy work is drink lots of water over the upcoming days.
Absolutely. Root and ground yourself. Because it's turbulent times. When you look at the Drudge report here, you can see, it's so much is coming out. But, he's got the little hat on there. I don't know if that's AI or not, but when you realize that, again, the communist parties have been funded by mostly Western European capitalists because, again, it makes money. And that's what they're after, is making money. So, it's all part of one twisted circus. But we can recreate a Garden of Eden, and this little guy thinks that they found a Garden of Eden all for themselves, and they're just in heaven.
It's just for little him.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine that gold mine?
Oh, I love it.
So you can give us some dings and we'll put out some intention,
Yes.
some positive intent.
Yes.
Let's put out the intent again that peace will grow on the planet, and that first, I mean, everything's going to have to be revealed. So it is in the process of being revealed. May it lead to, health, safety, and, a true spiritual revolution in brotherhood on the planet.
This is for rapid manifesting right now before the eclipse, and we're gonna probably do the eclipse video maybe tomorrow. It's gonna be a very important eclipse. So please, I want to say a huge thank you to Bob Hawk for tonight. We appreciate that, and all of your thumbs up, all of your support in every way, shape, or form. And when we do this, if this is your first time here, please have some happy energy going through your mind, because we are going to send information to your energy field, and we're going to expand that energy field, and whatever is in it, which are usually your thoughts, is going to be expanded out. That's why we like to set our intentions and have a kind thought going through your head, even and especially for yourself. So here we go. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, words, actions, and deeds contribute to their happiness. As always, guys, much love, source bless, and namaste.
Namaste.